Happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. 1 o'clock on the second day of 2021. We're going to try drawing something. I'm caffeinated, got some water, went for a little walk. I'm feeling inspired by the Bo Katan Mandalorian character from the Clone Wars series and wanted to try my hand at drawing a lady in armor that's more practical than even what we saw on the screen. So we're going to get into it. Here's the inspiration images. If you're not familiar with the Mandalorian, her character is the sister of a murdered monarch or queen of a planet, and she wants revenge and wants to take the planet back. And her race and creed are these gunfighters who believe in obtaining this precious metal called Beskar and wearing it. And their religion revolves around gunplay, from what I understand, and jetpacks, and flamethrowers, and grappling hooks. The famous of the Mandalorians would be the Boba Fett character from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So it's been probably 2020 was a terrible year for many people and many things, but I think it was the best year for Star Wars since 1983, in my opinion. So, well done, Dave Filoni. Well done, Jon Favreau, and all the actors and directors, including Bryce Dallas Howard and the other people I don't know the names off the top of my head. All right, let's get into drawing. We got the reference over there. Let's get into some warming up. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hopping in. I already got 3 likes. Thanks, Rick, Savannah, and Elle. Like the likes. Please comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're paying attention. Ask questions and get involved. So, starting with our gray background. Gray background, new layer. I made a white dot. Why did I make a white dot? Let's pick that and just brush it out. So we're going to warm our hand up. Let's get a little brush, a little pen brush. And what do we do first? We draw some cylinders. Draw some cylinders, circles, boxes, just something to get the arm moving, getting the hand thinking. Maybe do a little bit of observational drawing from life. What do I got? A trusty cup of water to my right, and it's got a logo on it and some triangles and some text, something like that, just to warm up. All right, it's feeling pretty good. Getting loose, getting loose, getting loose. All right, delete all of that. Control A, delete, Control D, deselect. So, got to come up with a pose first. What's the pose gonna be? Well, we have a humanoid, so let's draw a stick figure. That's fun. Stick figures are a good way to warm up. And since it's going to be a lady, we got to have, for the most part, the hips are wider or as wide as the shoulders. So we're reminding ourselves of the female anatomy in contrast to the male anatomy. And for entertainment and for video games and movies, if you want to be specific about the gender and archetype of the character, you do have to exaggerate 25 to 100% more than what is normal. That's why you get like a villain in a Rocky movie has to be Dolph Lundgren, who's 6'7", has an IQ of 175, and is 95% pure muscle. Those kinds of people are not common in the real world, but for telling stories, you gotta have your David and your Goliath. Because if they're only like 5 pounds and 2 inches different, it's not going to seem that threatening. You have to exaggerate stuff. So one of the challenges of women in movies is this idea of a strength in a like biologically weaker character. How do you find the strength in that to fight like much bigger, much dumber guys? Well, usually intelligence and some kind of skill is what you see the female characters do. Better decision making, better use of equipment, better use of the environment. I reference what Ridley Scott and James Cameron did with the Ripley character. Brilliant casting of Sigourney Weaver, but also brilliant script writing, making her a logical and caring and empathetic leader who's also strong enough to take care of herself and to rescue Newt from aliens. Just one of the strongest female characters I've ever seen, and also one of the strongest characters across any gender I've seen in any movie, and that's why Aliens is my number one favorite movie of all time. Now, Katie Sackoff, famously of Battlestar Galactica, strong female actress who takes on what was a male role in the original series of Galactica, and naturally becoming a fit in the Star Wars universe. Very cool to see here. Now, I didn't know going into watching Mandalorian how she had been involved in the cartoon series, and just what a perfect transition to the live action that was. All right, so that's warm up. Okay, that's just like a basic figure. Not a good pose, but just refreshing the mind. Let's get some kind of actiony pose. So imagining a little bit of a bend in the pelvis, the back, the spinal cord leaning forward. Now, I played football, so when I think about action poses, I think about charging towards the enemy, towards the opponent. We have the rib cage, and then the shoulder blades come out, and then here's the neck to the ball of the head, and then the face hangs off the ball of the head. And then this would be the point, these points here for where the top of the femur is. Now, when we're moving, we have this opposite left-right thing going on, upper body, lower body. So if one hand's, so to reveal the torso, I'm going to have the proximal arm going backwards. So that's going to swing back this way. The distal arm kind of want going forward. And then the legs are going to do the opposite of whatever the upper body does. So proximal leg will be going forward and distal leg going backwards. So let's see how well this works. We can even twist the upper body and lower body in contradictory poses to get a little bit more swing energy. So let's just see how this feels. Knees going forward, legs going back. Let's see how this works. Does this feel interesting? We're warming up. Foot. So we're running out of space down here. The great thing about digital is I can just select the drawing. I can move it up. I can scale it. Let me get this other warm-up drawing out of the way. I kind of like to shrink these and just put them over in a corner. Just to remember, like breadcrumb, where did I come from? The best trick for drawing feet, something I forget where I learned this, but the idea of the gait from croquet. Did anyone play croquet? Maybe just because I was bougie Connecticut when I grew up. I mean, we had a croquet set. It's where you have the little mallet thing. It's like a little sledgehammer, and you're hitting this like small clay ball through a series of gates in the lawn. It's a really bougie thing, really bougie activity. But if you can imagine a croquet gate on the ground. So if this is your ground plane, and you imagine a little horseshoe-shaped croquet gate, and then the shape of a footprint underneath of that. So there's the back part where the heel goes, and then the middle of the foot, and then the front where the toe and the ball of the foot is. Like it's kind of it's like imagining a tent that's held up by the croquet gate and draping forward and back. And that's that's the starting point when I draw ankles and feet now. Thanks for tuning in. Looks like Ali and Rob Coutier liked a photo I posted. Thank you. Let's keep going here. So you have the ankle is that gait, and so we have the forward leg and then the rear leg, and the 2 feet create some kind of ground plane. So now this is some kind of running, lunging forward type pose. What are the hands gonna do? So I'm immediately thinking about the bend. So lightly draw that out. And then the hands. So this is going to be a gunslinger type character. Katie Sackoff's Bo Katan has dual pistols, goes akimbo pistols. Now, I think going akimbo pistols is not very good for your accuracy because you can only see the sights of one gun at a time. When Outlaw Josie Wales fights Old West gunslingers, boom, 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 and that way they have 12 bullets. But modern guns, not allowed to show guns on Facebook, but I can show magazines. They got a lot of bullets, and so you don't need to have 2 6-shot pistols. You just have your one pistol with a 30-round magazine, or if you're in space in Star Wars, unlimited ammunition apparently. I don't know what the rules are in Star Wars for how many bullets you get in a gun, how many blaster bolts, something like that. But I definitely think that like pistols are never as good as carbines, never as good as rifles when it comes to hitting targets. And something they don't really have in the Star Wars TV shows or movies is red dots on handguns, which is a new thing in the real world. So it would be more likely that this commando character would either have a really tricked out single handgun that has a ton of ammunition in it and some kind of slick sci-fi trigger / light thing with a red dot optic on the top, some kind of holographic, I don't know, super sight thing, and then some kind of forward muzzle brake, I don't know, something like that. This is kind of the evolution of pistols in 2020, ladies and gentlemen, is like these high-tech blasters. They even call them blasters now. A lot of the people who are in the know call guns blasters now because they're starting to look like sci-fi stuff. You got to check out the Lugo Alien pistol, which is like the new hotness 2021 coming out of the middle, the Caucasus, the Balkans. Is it Bulgarian? I don't know what it is. All right, so we still got some kind of pose. I'm not thrilled about this. This is like a running pose. This isn't so much a fighting pose. So does she have a handgun just tip here? Is she drawing some kind of piece out of a leg holster here? That could be kind of interesting. She's pulling something out of her pocket, out of her holster, and then coming up with an armor set for this pose. I'm not loving this pose. Let's come up with another sketch just to keep developing. What do you guys think? Comment. Let me know what you think. Hey, Allie. Love you too. Thanks for commenting. That's my niece. That's my niece, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into another sketch. I'm getting a bunch of errors. I might have to restart. Yeah, I'm getting like a space bar error, so I'm going to restart Photoshop. Let's save this. Sketch. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to restart that. Let's look at our... Maybe let's get some reference again. What are some more things that will inspire what we're doing? Let me see. So another badass bitch from cinema, Natalie Dormer from Hunger Games. This is pretty realistic. Like I haven't even seen this movie, but I love the design of this character because it's practical, right? They smartly used real world weapons and some. I think they had a pretty decent consultant on that movie to educate them on what the filmmakers of what was practical, what was cool. What's this is supposed to be a sci-fi dystopia thing, but some practical things are she's got a typical or not an uncommon military police kind of uniform with some practical boots. She's got a thigh rig holster with a real world weapon on it. I've run a thigh rig. It's a little awkward to get used to, but it's not terrible. The most awkward thing about it is if you got to go to the bathroom, you got to take this whole belt and harness off. It'll fall off if you got to take your pants down. Whereas a belt mounted holster, you just take the whole belt off and it's different. But she's got this chest, she's got a proper chest plate. Unlike in the Star Wars universe, there's usually these breakups, especially in the Mandalorian armor set. There's actually this crack and like weak point design. Now it looks like, it's accentuating the pectoral muscles, and in the case of the Lady Mandalorians here, the feminine figure. But this is the point in the real world. You don't want any kind of crack down the middle. This is the most critical area. Your brain and your heart are the things you got to protect the most. So what you really want is a big stinking plate right in front of that area. So that's why this is actually more realistic, this Natalie Dormer character in Hunger Games. So we're going to incorporate that into our drawing here. All right. Photoshop's back up and running. Not giving me any errors anymore. You guys didn't hear it because you don't have the microphones on my computer, but it was beeping at me every time I hit the space bar, which is some kind of bug. Some kind of bug. Okay, so we didn't like the running pose so much, so let's draw something else. I make a lot of marks. Maybe something where she's getting ready to shoot. Head up there. Just a real high energy. I'm experimenting with lines and thinking about silhouette. This is more of like a karate type low squat pose. Getting real sketchy, just high energy. And some kind of rifle. Would that be cool? I'm not really feeling that. Let's shrink this one down. We're just warming up. We're warming up. Let's do another one, maybe from the side like this. So we have the torso, pelvis, one leg coming towards us, and then down, another leg doing something else back here. Some kind of medium-sized blaster business. I also like Mandalorian. It does have a very strong female character, the Gina Carano, and strong being physically strong. Gina's character, which is some kind of rebel enforcer, shock trooper, she's jacked, super strong. But she's also, the actress is a former mixed martial art fighter. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's a realistic, strong human being. Erase. So rifles down there. So to feminize this, we have to increase the size of the pelvis relative to the torso. And then there is a subtle change in angle of the leg, male to female, because just as a reminder, the female pelvis has to be wider to have children. So in compensation for that, if this is your bikini line here, the femur comes out, down, and then in at a steeper angle than the male pelvis to leg thing. So we have to remember this shape, this angle here is something that is an indicator of female skeletal structure, like in archaeologists. This angle, the size of the pelvis relative to the rib cage typically, whereas a male rib cage, the pelvis of a male is narrower and more in line. And then they have, males just have this mechanical advantage where the femur is almost directly in line with the tibia. That's how archaeologists can like find a bunch of bones and say, oh, that's a guy, that's a woman, that's a whatever. Interesting. I love the story of the archaeologists finding the sunken English ship from like 1200 AD, and they could tell who the longbowmen were versus the sailors, because all the sailors were bow-legged, and all the longbowmen, the archery dudes, had these scapulas, the shoulder blades that were twice as thick as the average human being at that time, because they had spent their entire lives drawing longbows, getting jacked, getting diesel. I would have loved to have seen one of those dudes. What their anatomy must have been like, because all this calcium and protein was going into their trapezius muscles, the muscles in your back that can pull your arms back like this to hold out a bow, and they're pulling 120-pound bows. All right, so this is a little bit more of a practical pose. This is more realistic. And let's redraw that. Kind of cool. So some people like to, you can design a costume on just a basic fashion pose. Like, if I didn't take any classes in fashion drawing, but I imagine it's a very elegant, very basic standing pose, maybe just with a little bit of some movement, just a little bit of contrapposta. So if you're into fashion drawing, which, you know what, I probably should just sign up and take a class in learning how to draw that way, because it's probably good. Learning anything is good for your mind. You can come up with a look just on a simple pose, but I want to knock out two birds with one stone. I want an action illustration, and I want to be able to design my character on the same go-between, just as an example. But we do know we're going to need some kind of chest plate, we're going to need some kind of shoulder pads, and we're going to need some kind of helmet thing, is some goals. Maybe a little backpack. I still don't know if I want her to have a little carbine, a submachine gun type Star Warsy gun, or just the pistols. All right, so we got the little carbine, however you want to say it, sketch there, and then let's do another one. This is the warm-up process. I want to show you just how rough the process is. For you people for my audience members who are intimidated by the drawing process, I want to show you that you can make a mess and then clean your mess up. And that's the too long didn't read Cliff Notes version of the way Tom works. Make a mess and then clean the mess up. See, this isn't too bad. Like, just that simple standing pose isn't like terrible. I'm actually surprised how much I like it. It's just easier. Okay, let's do another pistol one. I want to think about like a realistic kind of, maybe she's in the process of getting that gun out, looking at her target, maybe thinking about something this. So doing the cross for the face, we're identifying where the eyes would be. And then stick figure, shoulders out, and then hands in. She's in the process of getting that gun up to her field of view. So that thing's coming out, and then she's getting her grip underneath. So she's got both hands getting on the blaster, and we're gonna give her a pretty cool sci-fi looking thing. We're gonna invent a gun here too. How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing? Let's minimize some of my reference. Okay, a little bit of foreshortening here. So that hand comes down, forearm, arm. This is going to take some exploratory drawing. Let's make the face a little bit more sinister. Because Katie Sackoff's character isn't all benevolent. I think she's got a little sinister sides to her. Okay. So this is just placeholder, right? We're just figuring this puppy out. Torso's a little short right now. Got to make the rib cage a little bit longer and maybe lean back. Let's try that. Okay. This is feeling all right. Erase, erase, erase. Let's make that torso coming towards the viewer. And then a bend at the belly button area. Imagine the pelvis would be down here somewhere. And I think Katie Sackoff's character, I think Bo Katan, should be in her 40s. I assume that in the Clone Wars she was in her teens and 20s. And then now this is 20 years later. So she's probably not a mother at this point. But she would definitely be fully adult. Right? Got all her curves. But also a lot of muscles too. Alright, so let's move this up, give us some space. We can shrink that drawing down. Maybe we'll make it a little bit wider. It's good to have equal side. Imagine the middle of the head, equal distance to the shoulder on both sides. But there's going to be a little bit of perspective. So the proximal side, proximal is going to be a little bit bigger than the distal side, right? But I'm kind of liking where this is going already. I'm liking where this is going. We're going to have like a strong, realistic shooting stance with the right leg a little bit forward. And maybe she's slow walking towards, advancing towards the target. This is something that SWAT team and operators do. Heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, rolling on the balls of their feet, short steps to keep level as they're moving through a room. So I'm already feeling pretty good about this. Already feeling like this is going to be a more realistic character. So we're going to have a gun belt. It's going to be resting up here, and there's going to have to be some kind of holster on this side that has some retention, but mostly stays on the hip relative to the belt. Now for her armor, I want to do like a realistic commando type armor thing. So she's going to have a central plate and then some kind of side plate and separate abdomen. Maybe, I don't know if I want it to be flexible, like semi-flexible series of overlapping plates with a groin, some kind of groin protection. We'll come up with some kind of neat belt buckle too, and then ammunition on her offside. I think this is going to be a cool drawing. Feeling pretty good about that. What do you guys think? So what's the thing we're going to do after this? After we draw, you know, something different between like women and men. Like I think about, like guys, we're all about the biceps, like showing off how jacked our arms are. Forearms, biceps, pecs, upper body. And when I'm at the gym or whatever, yeah, ladies got their tank tops on, but I think it's all about the yoga pants. I think it's all been about the pants. When I'm on the trail and I'm walking around, people are showing off how good their legs look. So I want this character to feel pretty leg confident. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on the elliptical almost every day for the last month, and I gotta tell you, I'm seeing some improvement. I'm getting some indents in some traditionally flabby areas of my thighs, and I'm feeling pretty good about that right now. So the distal leg is actually going to be coming forward just a little bit. So we're going to try to get this heel toe walk going to be real sensitive to just a little bit of a lift coming off of that toe. And then the ground shadow is something like this. So just a little bit of that back, the proximal foot's heel is just a little bit off the ground, and the toes are down. And then it's actually the distal foot, but it's going to be kind of closer to us because it's coming forward. So we have a bit of a foreshortening thing going on because there's the right foot's here, and then the left foot's going to be in front. So they're actually going to be probably the same size to the point of view of the viewer. Now, what's the relationship of thigh to lower leg? So it was my Anatomy for Artists class senior year, Micah, who used the term thigh and leg. So it was always confusing to me because I grew up thinking that leg meant the whole thing, that this whole thing is leg. And so typically I call this area, instead of the lower leg, that's too many syllables, I just call it the tibia. Tibia is a little shorter to say, and tibia is just referred to that front bone. Calf, I've never been thrilled with a good term other than lower leg that's clear and universal. But that ratio is the femur generally is 3 five-eyed spheres. Five-eyed spheres, the brain kind of containing part of your skull, and then 2 for the tibia, and then 1 for the foot. So the femur like knee to hip is about the same as the knee all the way down to the heel. And then there's just a 1/3 up is where the ankle. Generally, that's a loose way to do it. How are we doing? 32. Say hi, man. If anyone's out there watching, I can't tell how many people are watching or not because Facebook isn't giving me like great whatever feedback. But I'm also learning. I'm also learning how to use this feedback thing. I guess there's a polls part. Can I ask a poll question? Is this interesting? I'm gonna ask a poll question. Option yes, and then option maybe, and then let's do a no. Let's just see. And let's see if we can post that. Is this interesting? We're just gonna post that, see if that works. So I've never done a poll before. This will be fun. This will be fun. And will I be able to see feedback on that poll? I don't know. Learning stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Learning stuff. Thanks for tuning in on a Saturday. Happy New Year. Let's clean this up a little bit. Now, for my fans who watch this regularly, what do you know I got to do next? What does Tom have to do next? What does Tom do every stream with his drawing at about this point? What does he do to make sure he is on the right path? What is he doing? What does he do? He flips the canvas. Very good, if you guessed that. So image rotation, flip horizontal. Okay, now we can judge this with some fresh eyes. Might lean back, take a look. I want to make a copy of this and then play around with the proportions a little bit. One of the great things we can do in Photoshop is we can select this and then move it. Right now it feels a little off balance, so I can rotate it just a little bit. Let's keep the original there, and then we just hold Alt and Shift while dragging using the Move tool, and we get a copy of that same version. I'm going to shrink this leg just a little bit. The distal leg that's moving forward, let's bring it down 5%. About 5%. Does that feel better? I think it does. Just 5% down, I think makes it a little bit better. How do I feel about this other arm though. I feel like this elbow is a little too scrunched. So let me take this whole area and warp it. Edit, transform, warp, and I can do some push and pull stuff. What if we pushed and pulled it down and out just a little bit? How does that feel? I'm squinting my eyes a little bit to see the general shape. You can, sometimes it's helpful to fill in some silhouette colors at this point. I want to shrink. I can't narrow this. Sometimes Photoshop is just so freaking frustrating. Let's bring the brush settings up. Let's bring the info into here, and then I should be able to narrow this down. So I can just close all that now. Okay. Let's bring this back. No! God, it's so annoying. So how's your day going? Let me know how your day's doing out there. Allie, if you're still watching. Or any friends. There's any friends who are out there. Okay, so we're going to come underneath, new layer. Let's do like a 50% and a blue gray. Get my Tom brush out. And we'll just shade in this figure a little bit, and that'll help us see the silhouette more clearly. Artist Moby Frank, his studies for Team Fortress of silhouette, I think, were key for recognizing the pros and cons of that. So the closer thigh, I think, needs to be a little bit bigger compared to the distal thigh. Let's merge these two layers together, and let's narrowify this thigh. Or should I thicken the close one? Let's thicken the close one. Just thicken it just a little bit. Use the eraser to thin down the distal thigh a little bit. So I would like the blaster to have its own silhouette a little bit. So let's do another experimentation. I'm going to cut these little sketches, warm-up sketches, Control X and then Control V. They'll be in their own layer. Move that down. Call it warm-up. Hide it. Let's do another evolution of this drawing. Let's take the second drawing, let's move it over. And is there a way, let's redraw the arms just for experimental sake. So I'm going to take the midsection and just draw right over it. So we have the torso. Let's go a little darker here. Okay. And let's create a new layer and draw over. Is there a way I can get the handgun to have its own silhouette? Can we raise it up a little bit more? So this would be the top slide, barrels coming out the front, flashlight, laser, module thing below. So now we have the gun in a location, the blaster in one spot. Let's make it maybe a little bit cooler. Maybe put a silencer out in the front, some kind of compensator silencer, Star Warsy looking thing out front there, and then figure out where the hands go in relation to the blaster. All right, so if the blaster's up, how is the hands going to get to that? Hi, Chris. Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping in on the stream today. Good to see everyone. Check out Fesco Farms. If you want to post a shot, post any business info. I loved summer on the farm, winter on the farm, growing up, watching all those farm videos. Chris was the original streamer, original content maker in the family. So how does the hands get to that? So we have the dominant hand. Now this is going to be flipped, so we're going to have the proximal hand be the strong hand. That's going to be in the trigger. and then the fingers coming down around the grip. Forearm, and then bicep deltoid coming up there. Bicep deltoid coming up in that direction. So there's very little silhouette on the close arm, but now the gun's up. So you see the difference in the hand positions, body positions between left drawing and right drawing. And now the other hand, the support hand, is going to be coming up underneath. So it's going to come at this angle from the palm, and then the fingers are going to come wrap around and underneath, because it's trying to get a grip right now. We're midway through the action of meeting, draw, shoot pistols, shoot stormtroopers, because they can't hit anything. And then I think the forearm just comes out just a little bit. So there's just a little bit of forearm, and then it goes back to the body. So to highlight, I'm going to use a little bit of color and then brighten up the arm just so we can separate it from the body behind, and then I'll darken what's behind. Let's get underneath the line work and fill in just to see what the silhouette's doing. I don't think that forearm coming out makes a lot of sense, so I'm going to erase. I'm going to merge these two together and then erase that. Would the elbow come down? Would that be visible? It's okay. That's not bad. Just a little bit of the elbow coming down underneath. Could bring that back just a bit. Chris says, dang. What are you saying dang for, Chris? Is that in response to something? Happy New Year, Chris Vesco. I hope 2021's a better year for you and the whole family. The whole fam. Mom's doing good. No COVID that we're aware of. Just trying to get her to buy a heating and ventilation system for their house. The weather in San Diego is so nice, they never use their air conditioning or heating, so they don't have one. And they rely on cheap house filters instead of like a proper HVAC filter system. Okay, that head's probably too big. Let's take the head and scale it down a little bit. So what do we think? Let's merge them together. Number one, gonna merge those, which I think is Control E, and then Control T for transform, and then put the head up something like that. Cool. Let's see what that looks like. And then a darker color just for the neck so we can clearly see what the neck's doing. Trapezius, collarbone, chest plate. Jetpack. What do we think? I feel like I could do a better, there could be a better pose. Let's do one more, but I don't want to spend too much time on it because I want to get into designing this character. Oh, thanks, Chris. Chris is saying I'm so good in great detail. I appreciate that, Chris. Appreciate that big time. So let's bring this over one more. So we're going to scale all these down just a little bit. So I have room for the next evolution of this character. Let's just try one. Let's try pushing it out one more. So from far away, that handgun looks huge. What happens if I extend this out just one more step and then make it just a little bit smaller? You might warp back some of the perspective on that too. Let's go edit, transform, warp, and maybe just I'll zoom in just to see, just to show you what I'm doing here. Change the angle on the gun a little bit, make it a little bit flatter up top. You have to squint your vision to see the whole and not get lost in the details. Let's try something like that. Out more. And let's redraw the arms one more time just to see if I can do something a little bit different. So we just want to see, what does it look like if the arms are more extended? Just a little bit of bend in the elbows at this point because we're not at full extension. Now it's starting to feel like Dana Scully, FBI. Put down the alien! The FBI's here! Thanks, Chris. Chris, did you watch much of the Star Wars stuff? I know our cousin's involved. You got Chip, right? He's a Lucas guy. Okay, so these different poses all offer something a little bit different. I like the idea of this pose that's really close, but it's not letting us silhouette the blaster as much. So just from a silhouette point of view, the one on the left isn't very threatening, and the one on the right is the more, like these two on the right are a little bit more threatening, a little bit more interesting. We can do a little bit more with the leg too if we want to make it maybe even more aggressive. So let's leave that one there. Let's do one more. Why not? We're having fun understanding and developing a character and a drawing here. So let's do, at this point, I actually want to extend the canvas out. Let's go image, canvas size, and we can add to the right side of this. I got 55 inches right now. Let's go to 70. And that's going to give us this extra room on the side of our canvas. Another great advantage of working digital, you can continue to expand the size of your canvas until you're out of memory for the most part. Let's refill the background color. Boom. And let's take this one last drawing here and copy it again. And this time, let's do a little bit more interesting stuff with the legs. So if you want to make it a little bit more dynamic, we can just rotate some stuff. Let's select the whole leg and use transform to rotate that, just like a paper mache doll. Let's go a little bit, let's exaggerate it a lot. And let's bring this ankle back flat. Let's see what this feels like. And then rotate the forward leg out just a little bit more. Just like a Monty Python animation. Is that a little bit better with the... Is that... I mean, it's more interest. There's more going on. I actually need to draw a little bit more here. A little bit. Maybe I want a little bit more knee bend. That becomes more straight up and down. What does this feel like? We can always go back to the previous foot. There's no because we've kept that drawing. So this is going to be the experimental portion of the drawing. Let's go lighter just for the top of the feet, and then lighter on the knees. Holster thing. Okay, how does that feel? And then the shadow, you know, her midline is going to be somewhere underneath between the 2 feet. We got to remember to keep that as well. Let's give us some fresh eyes. So we're going to flip this canvas again back the other way and do a little self-critique. Image rotation, flip horizontal. Okay, definitely the one on the left is the strongest, right? Right. Chris is saying Rick did it ad nauseum. Oh, I miss Rick. Chris says his hero was Spock. How funny was it the Lugnettos were friends with Leonard Nimoy? You knew that story, right? Leonard Nimoy used to visit Vinny Lugnetto. Yeah, he was a friend of the family. My dad's side, not the Fesco side, but the Symonds side. Chris says she likes the extended arms and says dynamic. That's the word. Dynamic. Great book, by the way, how to draw the dynamic figure. I think it's called something like that, Dynamic Figure. Great instructional book for drawing people. And then there's a series of dynamic folds and dynamic cloth and clothing and dynamic birds and animals, all that kind of stuff. Dynamic's the right term. So, all right, we see an evolution of the thought today. Maybe that's what I'll call this this video when I put it on YouTube later, is like the evolution of a concept. Right, so I think we've started with a loose idea and we've evolved it, we've experimented, we've self-critiqued, and we've increased the dynamism of our character here. So how much time we did? We did 52 minutes to get here, and let's see what kind of details we can bang out in the next 15. Let's do 15 more minutes, and then I'm going to take a break and maybe pick this up tomorrow, maybe tomorrow morning, something like that. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have the family hopping in the stream today. Really cool. Real special day. Happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. So how do I want to, let's save this, of course. Save, and then I'm going to copy just this one to a new layer. One of the beautiful things about Photoshop is all the layers. You can save all your work in different layers. So let's move this character out just a little bit. And let's start drawing over some details. I'm going to make this about 40–50%. We have our silhouette and then a new layer, and we're going to take a different brush, one of these Sumi ink kind of brushes. This is a wide brush that draws thin directionally and then thick another direction, and it makes these nice like samurai kind of marking lines. It's fun, has a lot of energy to it, a lot of velocity. A lot of velocity in that brush, and we want to have high velocity brainstorming at this point. Let's go. I think F is full screen. There we go. Ooh, that's nice. That's nice with the full screen. I'm gonna get real close up. Oh, what did I do? There's a zoom control on the side of the Cintiq I forget about sometimes. So go to the Sumi brush. Let's drop it down to like 80%. Let's get the face. Eye, nose. Eyebrow. She is upset because this character's got to shoot somebody. Got to pop a cap. Eraser's a little too big. Just got her lips pursed just a little bit to breathe in, breathe out. Just a little bit. So since she's going to be, her head's tilted down, she's going to be looking up. So it's going to give her a little bit more eyeball on the bottom side of the eyelid. So eyebrow line, imaginary line to the top of the ear, and then from the nose around. The bottom of the nose lines up with where the bottom of the ear would be. She's got some kind of, add some kind of wrap, maybe to pull up sweat. You don't want sweat getting down into your eyes during a firefight. Don't need that extra burn. Right? Am I right? Am I right? How do we imagine the neck? It just comes out of the head. It's just this tube cylinder that comes out of the head, and then is the insertion point of the rib cage, trapezius around the back neck muscles, and then the deltoids around. About the same distance left as right, so I might need to come out just a little bit more on the other side. Bicep, deltoid inserts there, tricep comes down and around, elbow, which is your ulna, and then forearms to the wrists, something like that. So there's going to be some foreshortening here. Trigger finger is going to be coming out towards the viewer, and then just the last digit is going to be inside of the trigger guard itself. And then now we're going to invent some kind of Star Wars blaster. Oh wait, I need the other hand. So we first work out the strong hand that's coming in and around the handle of this gun, and then we're going to imagine it and figure out the support hand. Support hand is going to be coming around and underneath. Some kind of crazy laser module light thing. Maybe it's got a taser built underneath. Like it's got, this pistol's got a taser and a projectile weapon, stun and incapacitation. And the pinky's coming, pinky fingers down around here. Something like that. I think that feels pretty good. Now it's a little more tucked in than the original. Kind of like primitive sight rail on the top might be cool. I don't know what this is going to look like. Well, we got a circle for the bullet to exit, and then maybe we have some kind of shape around that for venting gas and stuff. We get a true side ejection port, and then some serrated shapes for gripping and charging this blaster. Let's see what that looks like from far away. Yeah, it looks all right. Let's do some more stuff here. Chest plate, side plate. Has to go there, and some kind of stacking. How about that? That's cool. Kind of stacking belly, groin protection. Kind of good. And then we have the kit. Now, the Star Wars characters always have cool belts with all kinds of stuff on them. So what would be an interesting belt for this person to have? Maybe it's like a claw belt, like it latches on top of itself or something. That'd be kind of cool. It'd be fun. That looks much like a Pokeball. Something there, and then I don't know, some kind of shape like that. That's interesting. Something very different. And like a little grenade pouch right here. Grenades are pretty handy. And then some more pistol ammunition off the side. Now they got the Mandalorians have this forearm armor, these gauntlets and greaves, I think they're called. They go in the front, and then they have a pretty serious piece of deltoid armor. Let's give it some cool sci-fi fins just for fun. Maybe it's a radio, antenna, I don't know. And just a little bit of a middle arm plate. We have a top plate that says some top protection. That would probably go over the straps of her harness. And some neck protection, something like that. So soften that cheek up just a little bit. Jetpack. Holster for this piece will have to be pretty darn big, because that is a big blaster. Big blaster. Now, one thing in Star Wars that they still keep, but in the modern world we have a better version of, are holsters. Like we have Kydex plastic retention holsters with buttons and switches and all kinds of gadgets and gadgets that have to hold these handguns. And in the Star Wars universe, it's pretty much just straight leather, like circa 1944. So we're going to give her more of a 21st century holster kit, which is going to be some of these Kydex or polymer held retention Safari Land style thingy-mabobs that's got like a retention hood business, and then there's a strap that kind of holds that whole apparatus in place, even though the leg can still move and still swing forward. You know, I love the idea of some pockets on the upper thigh. I know some military dudes really like pockets up above on the shoulders too. So we could give her, I want to give her some place to store stuff up on the upper arms. Maybe. It's not, I could a pocket underneath the shoulder, what are they called? Pauldron? Something like that. Some kind of pocket pouch gizmo. This is feeling pretty good. Let's keep working our way down the leg. So the Mandalorians have these little knee pad things that also have weapons on them. Pretty iconic. Little bullets, little shooters. Some pockets, plate. Do we need a back plate? A lot of medieval knights don't have like back protection on their thighs. They're mostly concerned about incoming strikes from the front, not so much the back. So maybe I'm tempted to leave the plate off the back and it's just some kind of tight insulated Kevlar like spacesuit material. And would she have outside pockets? Maybe, you know, it'd be a good spot to have a couple hand grenades, a couple thermo detonators. She's got a thermal detonator. Here, that'd be cool. On the leg, we could have a pretty serious piece of plate armor down here. I might not have made these big enough. And then shoes. How do you do space shoes, right? How do we feel about this, ladies and gentlemen? What do we got to do is flip it. Save. I'm feeling pretty good. The next thing I want to do is get a silhouette of this Chica here. Commando Chica. Maybe like a fiber optic tube up top would be really cool. Something like that would be cool. What do you guys think? Hour 10 minutes. Let's do the silhouette and call it, I think, is what we're going to do. So let's wrap this up. I'm going to hide the underlayer and make sure that we just have a nice outline that's pretty solid all the way through. I can use the hard round brush. Just making sure the exterior outline is solid. Looks good, looks good. This is kind of weird. That's a little broken. This is here. This needs to wrap up. That can be fixed and adjusted later. Okay, that looks pretty. Oop, there's a gap there. Gap there. Cool. Let's. I don't love this foot. Okay, use the magic wand tool W, click the outside. Looks like I have a good, oop, there's one gap here. I'm going to redraw that gap. And something like, raise that, separate that, calf, leg, okay. On that, how's that look? That contour looks pretty good. Let's inverse that selection, Control Shift I, and let's fill it. Let's go underneath new layer. Let's fill with a medium desaturated dark blue. Call that layer fill. Call the layer that we just drew on, we'll call that line. Line fill. All right, I'm liking the silhouette of this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at the stream, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. My next step in this whole process would be to establish the lights and darks. You know, we can quickly do a gradient going from the bottom to the top. I'm going to lock the transparency, go to a darker blue, my Tom brush, maybe 50%, and then with the darker color at the bottom and a big brush to start to glaze. Let's go even lighter. Let's go 20%, and then come up from the bottom, just darkening the bottom, and then the shadowed areas and any receding areas, areas that are going away from us, and anything that's more creased. For some creases and shadow and contrast, we'll darken those areas down. Just a little bit. And then let's go to the light. We'll warm it up. Maybe a little teal. A little teal might be fun. A little above 50%. Let's go 40. And then anything that's facing up towards the sky just gets a little bit of teal. And let's go maybe 20%. Maybe screen layer. And then lightly glaze with a soft, just the whole upper body, make it a little bit more bright, just to give us a starting point. And we just glaze a little bit on the top of the leg, and the top of the feet. Even though generally the feet are going to be darker, the tops of the feet will be indicative of something looking up. Aren't we all looking up? Aren't we all looking up towards the future? That's what we want. We want to be looking up towards the future, towards optimistic, the world going back to normal, or else to a new normal that we can live with. Because maybe you're having a hard time living with what existence is now, but we're going towards or moving towards something new and something different and something kind of fun. I'm going to draw over and fill in the line areas on the top, just so it's not dark, as dark on top. I can go pretty light. I might even go normal. Let's go normal. Let's go 40%, 50%. Save it and just kind of lighten. Do that kind of stuff. Is that cool? Is that cool? No, that's weird. Keep the dark lines for now. Control Z. Control Z to undo. And let's get some skin tone. We can go to hue brush or color, go to the fill layer, and for 50% glaze in some more human skin tone on the skin areas. Now, I think this character is going to be wearing gloves. Oops. Back to skin tone. And that's enough to get us started. Enough to get us started. We're going to be painting over most of this. Would be a nice contrasting color. Maybe some green for the soft fabric parts. We could do like green, olive green. Hue for the gloves and fingers and any soft area of the uniform. So I'm thinking teal. Teal and green. Very tactical for like an aquamarine type environment. So the areas of that aren't covered by hard plate will be this tone. And I think that'll be pretty good for a color contrast on our Space Commando member of Bo Katan's personal security detail. I think that's what we got here. I think that's what we're working with, ladies and gentlemen. Just got a couple highlights for the engine parts. Anything metallic gets a real hot shine on it. Boom, 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 boom. Something really dark and red for the red dot sight, for that weapon sight here, real dark. And let's have some kind of bright, I don't know, indicator thing there. Boom, boom. And then flashlights, bright white there. Something like that. And because it's sci-fi, we can go very bright red there. Might be cool. Maybe green. Maybe green in the sight. That'd be interesting. What's that feel like? Does that feel good? That feels pretty good. Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, because you are the audience, I have been more productive today. Thanks for being here, hanging out. Just by your mere presence encourages me to do what I do. So thank you all again. Thank you all again. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for checking it out. Hopefully this will continue into a longer series. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. And I hope I've inspired you all out there to do a little bit of drawing on your own. And come up with your own characters. Be inspired by the world around you, be it the science fiction TV shows you're watching or just the nature and animals that you see in your neighborhood and the interesting people in the world around you. It might be fun to actually change. Let's like put a little orange in the knee pads. Just a little bit of color contrast. Just warming it up that a little bit. Just warm it up just a little bit. Warm up the boots just a little bit. Slightly different. It's got some mud. It's been walking around in some dirt. Had some abuse. Let's get a little warm color to contrast with the cool, and then we can have a little bit of an environment. with some kind of brown mud kind of thing. I don't know what that is. Some kind of mud brown, and then we're gonna have some rocks. This is some kind of forest, moon, planet thing, trees, and I don't know, palm trees and stuff. Some kind of creative, chaotic kind of world going on around our hero character here. Nice. All right, this was kind of fun, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast, Tomcast, hangout time, and I'm going to call it here, and maybe we'll continue this later on in the week. Take care.